Trying to also show the connectivity of the house in the process of shooting it. It's not just about the space, but it's how they're connected. These barn doors is why I think the CM15 is so useful for the job of real estate video in particular. But what ends up happening is you get this kind of vignette around yourself in the camera, because everything closest to you becomes the darkest thing in the room. In today's video, we're tackling the dreaded topic of adding extra lighting to the scene for real estate videography in particular. For the longest time, I thought this task would be extremely cumbersome and add a bunch of extra time on site. But with the massive increases in the technology of battery-powered video lights, this task has become a lot more feasible to do easily and on a smaller budget for sure. You don't have to start off with a full production van full of equipment and stands. Instead, I'm gonna show you how to start small, real small, to test the on-site video lighting waters on a budget and give you a little extra light in those super dark small rooms that need them the most. I'm gonna show you 3 different ways I use off-camera lighting in my videos, and I'll do it with the all-new light from Zhiyun, the Keeper CM15. It's a super lightweight, bicolor RGB light with a built-in battery with 35 minutes runtime and boasting a 94 plus on the CRI scale. The best thing about this light, from my experience, it's extremely affordable. It's small enough to carry the entire shoot, and more importantly, is the single product I have used on site that completely changed my mind on how easy it is to add lighting to these real estate videos, which, once again, I never really thought possible. What's the deal, everyone? I'm Jeremy Deal, and if you're new here, I help solve the problems of creatives with a focus on running a real estate visuals marketing company, and of course, the gear it takes to do that. While Zhiyun did send me out this light for testing, thanks Sherry, they are not today's video sponsor. That goes out to long-standing supporter of the channel, Motion VFX, but a little more on them later on in the video. If you want to support the channel while getting something useful for yourself, think about using one of the affiliate links down below for the gear and software I use in my personal company for paid client work. There are 3 basic ways I use this light on site. 1 is to help light dark spaces. 2 is to accent particular areas I want to highlight. And 3 is to add a fake lens flare for a more artistic shot. Now, I'm going to go backwards here because the main reason I use the light, those dark, small spaces that I want to add light to, for lack of a better term, well, there are a few different techniques I use there. Also, if this is the kind of topics you want to see more of, then make sure to, do the YouTube thing. Like and comment, subscribe, all of those things you're supposed to do. So I know the type of topics you want me to cover in the future. With that out of the way, let's start with the last thing first. Let's talk about the fake lens flare. I like to use this when I want to slow things down to a static shot without movement, but you still really want to be presenting something kind of visually appealing. Typically, I use this when I'm using a much tighter shot, showcasing a feature of the house or exterior. I do it a lot when I'm looking at fireplaces in particular. I use this technique mainly with my long lenses because trying to get that flare on the wide angle lens means you usually end up seeing it in the shot while you're trying to move it around. And well, I guess that kind of defeats the purpose and gives away the trick, doesn't it? Shot 2 is when I place the light behind objects like plants, books, vases, anything you want to stick out more than everything else in the scene. You can also use it as a more directional light. Let me show you. So you can open up these barn doors right here and you can point it straight at your subject matter. Make everything around it a little bit darker. Now, keep in mind, just like with regular lighting, this will give you some harsh shadows, but if you're like me and have access to this magnetic frame and it all attaches, and then I highly recommend using these barn doors. They are by far my most used accessory for this light so far. Well, I guess if you include the magnetic cage that goes with it, that too. And honestly, these barn doors is why I think the CM15 is so useful for the job of real estate video in particular. If you're interested in seeing a video covering all the accessories for this thing or anything else for that matter, again, just comment down below and I'll see it eventually. If you want that softer light for this shoot, you could also attach the small grid and soften filter Or if you don't have any of those extra accessories like I've got laying around here, you can also use the silicone dome that comes with the light. But keep in mind that light will be much less directional without these barn doors. It will kind of spill out into the room, and without the grid or the barn doors, it'll be much more difficult to control. Let's set that down. And if you want absolute control over the videos you create, then you have to check out today's video sponsor, Real Estate for Motion VFX. This one single plugin contains 95% of the effects I use in my personal real estate video deliveries, from super clean titles to the best pre-built real estate contacts I've ever used. This plugin has it all: transitions, icons, infographics, lower thirds, call to actions, and a whole bunch of other extremely useful drop-on effects. This one pack comes with 116 assets alone, and Motion VFX offers tons of other packs too, including a free transition that I use all the time, the Luma transition. And the very best part is it's all installed and updated through its own application, so they are also the easiest plugins I've ever had to install and use on DaVinci Resolve. Not only are they the sponsor for today's video, they are also the product I use every day in my personal real estate company for deliveries. Check out my link below to get the best deal that Motion VFX is currently offering and help the channel in the process. Now that you're prepared with all those cool post-production effects, we can jump into the longest part of the video. The number one way I use this light, and that is to help adding light in smaller spaces. Sometimes it's because I'm trying to reduce my ISO to a native one, and other times I'm trying to bring up the exposure of an accessory room attached to the one I'm filming. If you've ever seen some of my videos where I talk about using multiple strobes on site for my real estate photography, well, this is like that same logic. As a matter of fact, it's using the exact same logic, except we're using video lights instead of strobes. I'll link that video above, just in case you're curious. I'll talk about the latter of these two ideas first because it requires no extra money other than the purchase of the light itself and no specialty rigging equipment. All it requires is your abilities and desires to take a little extra time on site to create something that looks, let's just say, better for your clients. Personally, when I'm shooting real estate videos, I'm trying to open up as many doors as possible because I'm trying to also show the connectivity of the house in the process of shooting it. It's not just about the space, but it's how they're connected. This can be troublesome when trying to showcase things like bonus rooms or bedrooms with large closets, especially primaries, or accesses to bathrooms that don't show the bathroom directly, have a little hallway or something like that. That's where having something like the CM15 is extremely useful because not only is it all the things I've already talked about, it also gives you the ability to fine tune your added light temperature because it is full RGB. This is huge. All of the lights I've tried before this were only daylight. Not only can you add light to these dark areas, it means you can also turn off those yellow incandescent bulbs in those small spaces and add a white light closer to what's coming in to the windows, and that reduces the amount of post-production time required to make those rooms match in color tone. I tend to place it on the top of doorways or cabinets and shelves, and I honestly face it straight up to the ceiling. Here, let me pop this guy back on here real quick. Just like this. Just as I would with my strobes photography. So that way I'm using the white light from the ceiling up here to bounce it back. Now, in my personal opinion, I've actually saved the best for last because what I've done here is essentially build a mini Manus pod setup. Here, I'll put it right over there. And I add this CM15 to an extension arm on the top of the handle that faces up to the ceiling and a tiny bit backwards, like I was just talking about with photography, while I'm holding the whole rig. If you're a longtime follower of the channel, you know that I use a lot Falcam. You know I use a lot of the Falcam F38s and F22 mount system, so I keep an extra F22 plate attached to the small rig handle so I can easily attach the magic arm to this, and I have the F22 on the bottom of the CM15. Wow, that's a lot of words. And we make that process a whole lot smoother for clip, clip, clip. Since it has a 1/4-20 on the bottom, it makes the mounting options pretty much endless for whatever system you use. And I find this Manus pod setup to be extremely useful in just about every room, including those big and bright ones, like the living rooms and the connected dining spaces. If you've ever shot a real estate video before, and I assume if you've made it this far in the video that you have, because we're pretty deep in right now, then you've probably noticed the same things. Rooms are extremely bright near the window source of light, but the further you get from that window, the darker the room gets. And that's typically where you're standing with your camera to shoot towards that window to make the space feel as large as physically possible, right? Because that's how I do it. But what ends up happening is you get this kind of vignette around yourself in the camera, because everything closest to you becomes the darkest thing in the room. So taking this little bitty light and adding just a little bit, even a little bitty bit, can really help where I honestly did not think it would. Originally, I thought this would only be useful in those smaller half bathrooms and closets, and by the way, it is extremely useful there. But I find it to be just as useful in about every single room I shoot on the property. Once I put it on, I leave it on for the entire shoot. Overall, the new Zhiyun Cinekeeper CM15 not only changed my thoughts on lighting interior videos, it ended up changing my entire workflow for the better and making that post-production time I put into all of my videos shine even brighter. As always, keep rocking and rolling, enjoy what you're doing, make smart business decisions, and if you made it this far in the video, thanks for watching. I definitely appreciate it, and I appreciate you supporting the channel. Catch you next time. That's it. This light is awesome. I have literally used it on every single video shoot since I've got the thing. Catch you next time. Wait, members, I'll have something for you in the very near future. Sorry, I've been slacking a little. You'll see it real soon.